Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you are. Welcome to the Labyrinth today. Now, as always, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy the content and that you subscribe and become part of the community. If you're a returning visitor, of course, once again, thank you very much to you, much appreciated. I hope new or old members, I really hope that last week has been kind to you, that you've had a lot of blessings, that you have been able to observe in your life and understand to be blessings. There's a lot to discuss this week, so I'll try and get through it as quick as I can. I'm always very mindful of the duration of the videos. It might not appear that way because the videos are usually quite long as well, but I do try and be brief. So either way, I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible because we do have some changes happening to the channel content, not too far away, and I'd like to have some time to discuss that. Now, just a reminder too, whether you're a newbie or if you're a returning visitor, I do actively enjoy seeing comments come up, questions, people's thoughts, feelings, or whatever might be motivated from actually watching the videos. And I mean, also, it helps me to identify which direction to take with the content. So please do feel free and at liberty to put your honest feedback up, whether or not that is, yes, interesting or not for me or whatever. I'm the kind of person, I don't see any feedback as being negative as long as it's not written maliciously with the intention to create insult or injury. I'm fine with all sorts of opinions, including opposing ones, because I believe it's through this genuine, authentic, transparent communication that we're actually all able to grow. You know, it provokes thought, contemplation, and reflection. But anyway, before I get into what's happening on the channel, there's a couple of things that I promised to let you know. So this is a follow-up from last week's yarning video. So I'll start this week's with the Chitter Chatter, talking about the tarot and tea night that I went to. Now, just to give you some background to this, I wanted to go to it because I've been trying to find an offline community, shall we say, with like-minded souls, people that are into the same things as I am. And I was a little bit dubious and cautious about actually going for the night. I didn't know what to expect. There wasn't a lot of information. All I knew was that it was being run by an experienced person, a teacher who was the group leader, and that there would be lots of people that were novices to tarot reading. Now, historically, in the past, I have actually delivered workshops on how to read tarot, and in fact, all sorts of workshops, as you can tell by the content that I put on YouTube and that I'm going to continue to grow. So there becomes this case of having some integrity, respecting the group leader, recognizing that realistically, if people actually knew what I do, that I might inevitably take business away from the group leader. So I wanted to respect her and the fact that she was dedicating her time to the group, that she was not charging for this group activity, but obviously at the same time be honest and transparent about who and what I am in as far as it was appropriate, because there is no way known it would be appropriate to go in there and say, hey, I'm Anna and I've got a YouTube channel and I've done, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't be the right thing to do. So I tried to play myself down out of respect to the teacher. And by that, I mean, normally if I go to any of these kinds of events, I'll do what everybody does. I put on my crystals. I've got crystal bracelets, all of this kind of stuff. It seems to go with the trade. I don't consider that I look like a gypsy. I'm not into wearing headscarves and coins hanging off them and dressing up for theatrical purposes. I wear the crystals because I'm into the crystal properties. And now, where I'm going with this is usually the properties will be protection or to help me to open up. Excuse me while I have a cough. And I needed to meet this group leader before I could have a conversation and see how comfortable she was. Now, just to point out that although I say I don't look like a gypsy, in my mind I don't, because if there's any gypsy in my family, it goes back so far in the family tree we wouldn't know where it was. But interestingly, I did have a Romany lady come up to me in a public setting one day, point her finger at me and say, you're a Romany. And I said, no, I'm not. As you do, you argue. She said, I am a Romany. She said, and I'm telling you, you are a Romany. And I thought, well, that's interesting. But anyway, so where I'm going with that is while I don't know if I've got any Romany in me, I was actually taught how to read the cards and interpret them by another Romany gypsy many, many years ago, who actually, same kind of deal, found me, looked at me and said, I'm being told I have to teach you how to read the cards. You're a psychic and you need to do it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, moving on to last night. I did the, not last night, the other day, I did the Chitter, the tarot and tea, and it was an opportunity. The group leader did let me practice my gifts again as part of building my confidence. She didn't know why, because we didn't have the opportunity for me to discuss with her my own experience. I did disclose to her certain things when she asked questions such as, is there anybody that does Reiki? Is there anybody here that understands masculine and feminine? Things like that. I would put my hand up and say, yes, I am aware, just so that she knew as well. Anyway, where I'm going with this is she kindly gave me an opportunity to set up a table at this sacred circle and to do readings on people, because as I said, I haven't done face-to-face readings now for quite a while. I don't know, maybe about a year. And of course, as I've mentioned on the channel, I'm looking to do readings again to get back into it, because I've put it on hold while I work on the content for the channel, and also because I wanted to get my own energy right. I had a number of very significant challenges that I needed to address and put behind me before I could move on into the future. Anyway, so long story short, it went really, really well. I felt very validated by the experience. I am confident that I am listening to my guides when I deliver the messages, and this is what I needed to practice for. What I felt I needed to practice was to affirm whether or not I was listening to my guidance. So I have decided I'm going to continue to go to these groups. It's going to happen monthly, and I've decided that I will continue to go, because even as I, because I feel I've got my confidence back, that it gives me an opportunity to give something back to the community. And this is about tithing. For me, I've always liked the idea of tithing and gifting back, particularly when I'm charging for readings. It means that I've got that balance there, that energetic balance. Now, I will still, just for your information, once I start working again and, if you like, selling my services and taking bookings and that, I will continue to do the freebies on the channel, but I would appreciate if those people that can afford to pay, that they pay for it. When I do the freebies, I like to do it for people that actually can't afford to pay for services elsewhere. And so, yeah, basically that's where I'm going. Okay, now moving on, there's something else I need to follow up from last week's yarning video. It's in regard to the Tickle Vs Giggle judgment decision, where the judge ruled that women cannot discriminate, biological women cannot discriminate against trans male to female women, that they are women and that gender can be changed. Now, I might not have said that correctly, but this is really the condensed version of it. And I said, look, there was stuff that I needed to reflect on. And so I have reflected, and what I want to share to you is some of the thoughts that come to mind, because I said I was not certain of how this decision might impact on women when it comes to groups such as sacred women's circles. Now, I think it would be fair to say that, for instance, with the tarot and tea, that was actually a sacred women's circle, and not everybody is comfortable, but I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. For those of you that are new to the channel, you might not be aware that I did a Masters of Counselling. I did the theory, I didn't complete it, which is why I don't say that I am a Master of Counsellor graduate. I stopped and I just didn't bother doing the prac. I reached a point where I never completed it. But having said that, even if you are aware of the fact that I have done all this theory for Masters of Counselling, you might not be aware that one of the components of doing a Masters of Counselling is actually how to lead and run group therapy groups. Now, if you've never attended a group therapeutic session, for a group leader, there is a whole lot of planning that goes into being able to lead a successful group therapy session. And this is done by either the organisation itself, if you're working for an organisation, or if I was to say, start running groups again, therapeutic type groups, then I would be the mediator. So as the group leader, you've got to put this planning in, and to have a successful group, you've got to find the shared and common interests between the individuals in the group. So you could have a woman who might be 19, you could have a woman who might be 55. They in themselves are not necessarily going to have a lot of shared interest, okay? Because they're at different stages of their life. Now, with this image here, you can actually see that, yes, you can have successful mixed gender therapy groups, and it's all dependent on what the subject or the core theme of the group session, if I can speak, session is about. Now, for example, a mixed gender group that works well together could be like when I was at university and we were learning how to do counselling. So we had mixed gender groups there and we were developing ourselves en masse. Now, when outside of the university or study situation, you could be having specialist groups to look at, say, parenting or building confidence. This crosses the gender boundaries. Anybody could attend these and there wouldn't be a problem. However, there are certain times when it's not appropriate, when you've got to be really careful as a group leader as to who are going to be the group attendees, because the whole core theme or the whole core principle for having a successful group therapy session is that people feel safe. They have to feel comfortable and safe to be able to express their truth in a way that they are not misunderstood, so other people can understand them. They have to be able to trust the group leader that they can express themselves and even express difference to, because everybody's unique. There's that old saying, everybody's same, we're all the same, we're all human beings, we all have feelings, but we may have variations and differences. So you will get within any group setting opportunities for conflict, okay? And it's about navigating conflict as well. That's part of it. But the problem that I see with, let's say we had a women's group and a woman's group therapy session, might be that if you bring in a non-biological female into this group, the rest of the group is being forced to accept this person where they don't have a shared connection. If they're talking about women's issues, the non-biological woman is talking about an experience that the other people in the group can't relate to. There's not that shared connection, okay? Their experience of being a woman is totally different to the experience of being a biological woman, is the best way to explain it. Now, what might happen in those scenarios, and I would say quite likely it would, is that if a person is forced into a group setting, it will foster resentment, regardless of whether it's a women's group or anywhere else. It's going to foster a level of resentment that they are forced to disclose their most vulnerable aspects to a person they don't trust, they don't feel safe with, okay? Because they have no common interest. So what happens in those kind of groups, they fall flat. The people that could grow and benefit from it, and I'm talking about the wider group. So let's say we had 5 biological women, we'll use that as an example, and 1 non-biological woman. What would happen is the biological women would probably shut down and not speak. And it's not about being malicious. It's not by design. It's not that they don't care for that person and wish them well. It's just they don't feel safe, or they don't feel that they can actually express the truth of who they are. So then what happens is, if they're not actually feeding into the group, if they're not participating, these are the ones that eventually drop out and the group falls flat. So it just falls foul. And the other thing, so it kicks back, that karmic thing, that for every action there's a reaction, whether we consciously do it or not. Ultimately, what's going to happen is that the person who is non-biological will end up feeling more and more excluded, even though it's not malicious. It's just about feeling comfortable and feeling safe. So we can see here that what I feel is the concern is forcing people to do something they're not comfortable with backfires on everybody. Now, the issues I see with the ruling in regard to the Tickle versus Giggle is that Giggle was designed as a platform to support biological women to connect to other biological women, to be able to build support for each other in a social setting, perhaps to talk about their social financial issues, to support each other to move beyond any limitation. So we talk about this kind of thing as empowering women to live a quality of life, okay? And it was designed to address women's issues. In fairness, I think most people, whether they're women or not, if there's a guy listening to this, I'm pretty sure you'll relate to this, is most women will talk about anything when it comes to being woman to woman, whether it is childbirth, whether it's menstruation, whether it's their family and childhood issues. I don't think I can think of any woman anywhere who has not had her husband or boyfriend say to her at some point in time, did you really need to say that? Was it really necessary for you to share that amount of information? Why can't you keep a secret is another one that most women will hear at different points in time. And so therefore, where I'm going with this is when it comes to women's business, if you like, there is a necessity for them to have that space. That's called the social support. All right. And this has been acknowledged. I'm going to go into it in a minute. Somewhere else a long time ago that women needed to be able to have that sacred space where they can get the social support that they need. Now, okay, how am I going to go into this bit? So where I'm going with this is I've already discussed that I've got the counselling background and that there's a necessity to have women's groups dedicated to women within a therapeutic environment. But I also have a Bachelor of Social work, and so I have other knowledge that underpins which I consider to be legitimate concerns about the denial that this is creating for women to be able to have access to the type of support they need. And in fact, based on my social work degree, I would say that this judgment is a discrimination against women, okay? Now, part of doing a social work degree actually involves, certainly in Australia, looking at legislation, looking at how they make policies, finding where there are systemic gaps and injustice so that policy and law can be changed to bridge these gaps. Now, what I'm aware of, not all countries are going to have signed this agreement, but Australia is called a signatory because they have signed the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. Now, in this knowledge, just so you know, we have to compare, as I say, policy, legislation, all the rest of it. Now, I understand also that there are people that are saying it's not worth the paper that it's printed on in modern times. However, the reality is all of us governments who are signatories to these treaties, we get measured on our ability to maintain these treaties. And by signing the treaties, we're actually stating that we're going to put this, because these are guiding documents, that all of our legislation is going to uphold the values, whether it's the Convention on Human Rights or whether it's the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. So background here, Australia signed this convention back in about 1980. Okay, so I went back and I had a look at this. This is why, life's not just about being spiritual and energetic. Sometimes you've got to use your rational part of your brain. What I consider the judge has done is actually discriminate against women in violation of this treaty. And I believe this, if what's her name, Sal Glover, who has the Giggle platform, if she actually took this higher, and there is a means for it, we'll talk about that in a moment, I believe that she's got a valid decision to say, or a valid position, not a decision, a valid position to say that this ruling was actually discriminatory towards women. So I've put on here, it's not a very good slide, sorry, but it does actually give you the wording of what discrimination is. It's the distinction, exclusion, or restriction made on the basis of sex in the political, economic, social, right? I should have highlighted that, social, cultural, civil, or any other field. Okay, so when they have said that the Giggle platform can't go ahead, it can't be just for women, that is discrimination from where I sit on a social, cultural, and other field sort of thing. Anyway, let me have a look at this a bit more so I can refresh my brain. When we talk about the business of women, because this becomes the politically clouded thing at the moment. What defines a woman? Anybody can change gender. Well, the CEDAW, because this is what this convention's called as an acronym, it actually affirms that it is about reproduction. Okay. Now, I would say, because the argument is, well, not all women can reproduce. Yeah, not all women can reproduce, but they also experience hardship and discrimination if they are physically unable to reproduce. That creates a whole separate circumstances that a non-biological woman will not have to face. There is an expectation that a non-biological woman will not be able to produce children biologically through their own body. There's no expectation. With a female, there is. Now, in certain countries of the world, if a woman can't have a child, if there is some kind of fertility issue or reproductive issue, that apparently gives men the right to divorce them, and even worse in some countries. I'm not going to talk about this. So this whole business of reproduction is pivotal to women's issues and what defines a woman. And this is actually outlined in the CEDAW. I've actually written a lot of content in regard to what's on this convention for Australia and how this might apply. I think if Sal's got a good lawyer, she could certainly appeal it. The important thing I think for this, as part of a discussion part goes, is that I do believe that the judge has been remiss. I believe that the judge has adhered to Australian law, but been remiss by not referring back. Because as far as I know, when I've done my legal comparisons in the past, there is guiding documents within the Australian Law Society or whatever that says whenever they make their judgment decision, they have to refer back to the treaties. And when we talk about treaties, we're talking about the Convention on Human Rights. And I should have said, when I say that Australia is a signatory, this means that we have ratified this convention. It is supposed to be part of our legal system. Anyway, when there has been a misruling or whatever, when there is an inadequacy in our legal system, and I'm not sure how far it's gone in Australia, if there's any other recourse for Glover in the Australian legal system to actually pursue this. There is another option that's available when a country such as Australia ratifies a convention and then fails to uphold it. We as citizens have another option, and I'm going to talk about that now. So just to summarise, this photograph, of course, is not of the Human Rights Committee. I can't remember what the OH stands for, but you're talking about the Human Rights Committee. There is a committee founded in Geneva, apparently in Switzerland, where people can complain. So I would expect, last case scenario, that Sal would be able to escalate, formalise a complaint to the OHCHR. There is, all of this content is online. And if I was her, with her lawyers, as they formalise their complaint, I would be drawing upon the content that is in the CEDAW that refers to the fact that women need to be supported to address the issues that arise in daily life for them. This is worded in the CEDAW that the decision restricts women from enjoying all their freedoms. Okay, if you read this little quote here, it's provided the proof to be invaluable in opposing the effects of discrimination, which includes not only violence and poverty, but the lack of legal protections. Now, what we see here with this ruling of we don't know what a woman is anymore and you can actually choose your gender is, as I've discussed on the previous slides, it actually totally violates the rights, the legal rights of women, and with the potential for some extremely negative impacts upon them. And I think a good lawyer could argue that gender can't be changed, and that the reason why gender is now on the table is because we have doctors playing God. Okay, they can, I'm trying to be respectful here. And I think with that said, that the only respectful thing is to turn around and say doctors are not God, okay? Some of us are happy to stay with our birth biology. Obviously, those people that want to change their gender are in the minority. I'm not attempting to deny them access to supports they need. I suspect that perhaps it's time to revisit, because we have doctors playing God, to revisit that there are separate needs for separate groups. Now, when you go to the Indigenous societies, they actually do have places like Bali, the Australian Aboriginals, probably the Native American Indians as well. I believe in pockets of Russia as well, they have what's called men's business and women's business, because these are very important to them. Now, in the Western world, I've seen men turning around and saying, well, we're no longer allowed to have our sacred space. We can't have gentlemen's clubs anymore. Well, I feel for you, being an Australian, I feel for you, mate. And I'm sorry that you've had to lose that, but I don't agree with that either. I do believe that men should have their own sacred space to be men and to be comfortable around men. Obviously, us women, with respect, we think they get a bit piggy actually when they're just in a men's environment or men's club, but that becomes an outlet for them. So why on earth should we deny men the opportunity to have this release, this space of release for them as well? But anyway, I'm going to move on from that. I'm going to set this aside and leave it just for consideration, okay? Because to me, we all have separate issues, and it's got to be a safe space for everybody, whether you're male, female, or trans. We all have separate needs based on the way we live our life, sometimes what we were born into, and sometimes through the choices through our life, okay? And a trans person's experience of who and what they are is going to be completely different and separate to the experiences of being a man or a woman who has decided to stay with their birth biology. So I was going to talk about spiritual teachers and gurus and have a discussion about ethics and charging, and basically how to evaluate for yourself if you're actually got yourself a good teacher or if you've got somebody who's got questionable ethics. However, because the video is getting very long, I'll just say, I'm going to park this conversation for next week's yarning. And this is because of revisiting my Reiki manuals and content. I think I've got some good information to share with you that will help all of us, okay? So as an update on what's happening with Reiki and what I'm doing with that is, obviously, one, I'm not offering attunements just yet, and I'm certainly not offering Reiki healing sessions. What I'm doing is I'm continuing to work on the manuals, and it becomes quite involved because I actually was not aware just how much information that I've accumulated over the years. And the manuals that I've got, they go back many years. They go back probably to about 2001 or whatever. And I've done a lot of growth in between times. I've because there's many different forms of Reiki. I'm not going to go into that, but what I'm saying is I'm trying to put a lot of the information and remembering that everything's a bit by bit journey. So I'm doing up a new Reiki 1 manual, but I've decided that I'm going to include some of the strategies and techniques that you usually learn in Reiki 2 because of just the times that we're in. We live in a world now where most people have got a mental health condition. I think it's something like 1 in 3, might be 1 in 5, depending on where you live. And you normally learn how to do a mental health treatment in Reiki 2. So what I'm actually doing is putting in the strategy in the Reiki 1 manual on how you can deliver a hands-on mental health treatment. Then at the same time, I've got to revisit the Reiki 3 manuals and the Reiki 2. And I just think there's a lot of strategy that I've picked up along the way. So putting this content into these manuals is not a case of you've got to do this now. It's kind of like, here's the basics and here's a bit more, As you feel drawn, you can actually go and try X, Y, and Z and see how that works for you. So bearing in mind, by the way, that I've had a lot of really good teachers. I've been very blessed and very fortunate along the way. And when we talk about teaching, students are also teachers because they share experiences and technique and strategy as well. This is where this whole growing stuff comes from. Anyway, long story short, I have done a manual or basically a booklet that will be a PDF that says, the basic introductions to why would I want to do Reiki. There's that booklet is completed. Then I'm working on the Reiki 1 manual at the moment, and I've decided it's bigger than Ben-Hur. It's actually reached pretty close to 90 pages at this point, but I've also got graphics and images in it. And I've got to try and split that down, and some of that content will be used for the Reiki 2. I'll take it out the Reiki 1 manual. But either way, like I'm saying, I'm still working on these manuals. I'm still fine-tuning it, okay? I'll let you know when I've done it. I'll let you know when I'm ready to go ahead with attunements. And I've also, for those of you that have done Reiki, I've also gone and got myself a Reiki bear, because I've decided to get back into doing, well, I won't tell you what it is. It's a healing strategy. Anyway, I've got myself a Reiki bear, folks, but I'm the one that's deciding it's a Reiki bear. It's just a teddy bear. It's just really cute. So people, if they see that I've got a teddy bear, they'll wonder if I'm insane. So in regard to the angel content, what I call the angel magic videos, that playlist is obviously well underway. You can go and take a look at that anytime you want. You've got the introduction videos, my experiences of learning about angels, and how I came to include them in my life, if you like, and how I opened up to them. Now, where I'm going with this is, as far as the videos go and the prep, I have now completed all of them. Obviously, they're not all published. They are scheduled to be published because, of course, I'm working on something else in the background as well. So I wanted to get ahead of myself. But anyway, moving on with this. On Monday, I did actually load the video about your guardian angel. Thank God for that, I say, as you do. I had dragged my toes, and I do apologise for that because it's such a special thing for me doing that. Now, my plans include in the upcoming weeks, if you can hear the dog on his squeaky toy, he saves it until I've pressed the record on the microphone. Yes, anyway, what I would like to do is organise creating a video in the near future where I talk you through the process of connecting to your guardian, and you can then try it out for yourself. You can allow yourself to either go into the meditative state while I do the video for you, or you can actually listen to the strategy and then practice it by yourself in your own time. But that should go up in the not too distant future. Now, also this week I have loaded Nathaniel, the Angel of Fire. And when we talk about fire, it's the divine spark. I actually loved making this video, okay, because I feel that it brings through such valuable information for the type of person who is just coming into angels and just trying to understand their divine plan and this kind of thing. This would be a video that I'd recommend them all, but this video actually would be up there for people just as part of promoting reflection, understanding of processes as well. When I talk about processes, I'm talking about energy processes, or the process of awakening. Anyway, I recommend it. I'll just leave that with you. So next week, you're actually going to have access to 2 of the videos on angels. The first one that you're going to see loaded or become public is the angel Ooniemme, who's the angel of gratitude. Just a reminder, when we talk about gratitude, we're talking about the ascension attitudes. And for those people that understand, or even if they don't understand, ascension attitudes are involved with raising our personal vibration, our light levels, and gratitude plays a pivotal role in it. But anyway, you will be able to see in Ooniemme's video, I think it's on Tuesday next week. Now, the other video is Kaylarae, the Angel of Peace. Her video is scheduled to become public. I think it's on Friday, okay? What can I say about that? One of my favourite angels, and really, truly beautiful energy. But anyway, that video is going up next week. Now, if you're asking, why have we got 2 angel videos going up next week when we normally get 1? Okay, there's a reason for that. And the reason is because we've almost finished the colour content, the colour playlist. I can add stuff to it later on, but the fundamentals of the colour playlist and videos is actually now up, and we're completing that. So we've got the 2 videos that have been loaded this week. Next week, you've got only 1 colour video coming up, and then that's it. It's finished for the colour video. So I'm replacing the slot that was dedicated to colour, I'm popping an angel video in it. And also because I actually want to see the angel content to go up sooner rather than later. So more specifically, what you've seen go up this week on the colour playlist is actually the colour bronze and the power of bronze and its healing messages, which, if I recall correctly, it's about strength and boundaries without me thinking about it too much right now. You will also have seen this week the colour rose go up. If I recall correctly as well, with that one, that's about romantic partnership and intimacy. I can't remember now. It was a while ago. Feel free to make a comment, okay? I look forward to all sorts of comments. So next week, we have that final colour video going up. This is the last video for the colour playlist for now, and it is the colour of pearl, the power of pearl. If you have seen any genuine pearls, the artifact, God, I can't think of the word. Not the artificial ones, the real deal. Okay, they do also carry rainbow reflections in them, but they've got a creaminess to them. And anyway, so we've got the pearl video going up. I have some wonderful stories about pearls, which I'm not going to share with you right now because it would make the video too long, but it does involve dream visions of the pearl and pearl of wisdom and that kind of thing. And actually, look, I'll tell you shortly, it's not on the video that I've created and uploaded, but I started learning about the pearl and the wisdom of the pearl after having dreams of it. And it was through the dreams that I actually connected to Kuan Yin energy. And I went and at that particular stage, I started buying statues, if you like, of Kuan Yin. Just a little bit of tidbit information there. So, my friends, with all of that being said, and to keep this video as short as possible, because I've really truly had a waffle today, I'd like to say thank you very much. If you've hung in this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you for being part of my journey. I wish you a blessed day, a blessed week. Take care of yourselves. Feel free to leave comments. Feel free to say g'day, say hello to me. Write down where you're from, anything. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful week. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye for now.